The aim of this video is to provide a step-by-step description of physiological recordings. This video includes recordings of skin conductance responses as well as heart rate. It is recommended to have at least two separate rooms: the experiment room, where the experiment happens, and the control room, where the experimenter sits while the experiment is carried out. Optionally, a reception area where participants wait can also be useful. It is recommended that the experiment room be soundproof to avoid external distractions. It is of particular importance that the room should have a controlled and relatively stable temperature that is comfortable for the participants. This is approximately 25 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit at 50% humidity. The experiment room should communicate with the control room via different methods. The simplest is an intercom, where the participant can notify and communicate verbally with the experimenter. Additionally, it is possible to have a camera recording the participant, and the participant should always be notified that he or she is being recorded. The experiment room includes a computer used for stimulus presentation. This will be connected to the physiological recording equipment as well as the recording computer situated in the control room. In the experiment room, the stimulus computer, when necessary, can be equipped with headphones to deliver sound stimuli, special keyboards that can record accurate reaction times, and if minimized head motion is necessary, a chin rest can be used. The participant's chair should not have wheels to avoid moving during the study, but it should be able to adjust its height and position if necessary for comfort. In the control room, the recording computer is connected to both the recording equipment and the stimulus computer. In our setup, we use the recording software Acknowledge. It is important that everything is prepared before the participant arrives in order to minimize unnecessary delays that would cause stress to the participant. Firstly, we set up the physiological equipment. We connect the cables, turn on the equipment, connect the appropriate cables and probes. Subsequently, we set up the stimulus computer. We open on-screen instructions if they're available, a baseline video, and MATLAB or other stimulus presentation software. Finally, we set up the control room computer. It is important that we pre-test this computer. We start by recording with Acknowledge and ensure that all three channels, heart rate, skin conductance response, and TTL signal from the stimulus computer, are recorded. Subsequently, we test run the stimulus presentation, MATLAB script in our case, to ensure that Acknowledge receives the TTL signal from the stimulus computer. Once all checks are made, we stop the MATLAB script, restart the program until the prompt for inputting the participant ID appears, and we restart recording in the control room of the Acknowledge software. Next, we prepare all the equipment needed for the study: the skin conductance response sensors, the heart rate recording electrodes, and headphones or any other items used in the study. Lastly, we prepare the necessary consent forms along with a pen for the participant. We also prepare the debriefing forms along with payment and receipts. When the participant arrives at our lab, we welcome and escort them to the experiment room. After briefly verbally explaining the experiment and what we intend to measure, we provide them with a consent form and leave them alone in the room so that they have time to read through the form. We also ask them to notify us if they have any questions and let us know when they are ready to continue. When the participants are ready, we ask them a second time whether there are any questions, emphasizing that they can choose to stop the experiment at any point. If the participant agrees, we ask him or her to sign the form. After participants have signed the form, they are directed to the washing area to rinse and dry their hands. We emphasize that they should wash them thoroughly but gently so as not to cause any abrasions. When they are finished, we guide them to the chair and allow them to adjust the sitting position and height so they're comfortable sitting at the desk with the computer. We then direct them to read the on-screen instructions before asking if they have any questions and proceeding with the experiment. At this point, we begin connecting the skin conductance response sensors and heart rate electrodes. Note that the skin conductance response sensors are attached to the index and middle fingers of the participant's left hand. They should not be too tight and uncomfortable, yet not so loose that they might fall off easily during the experiment. For the heart rate electrodes, note that they are connected to the participant's right wrist and left ankle, as depicted here. We recommend that participants should relax and avoid unnecessary movements during the experiment. They should also be advised to communicate with the researcher if they notice any electrodes have shifted or come off. Here we start recording data from the physiological experiment through the recording computer in the control room. Depending on the study, we may play a short 2 to 3 minute relaxation video before proceeding. This is for the participant to relax so that we can record an accurate baseline response. When the participant is ready for the experiment to begin, we initiate the experiment as we leave the room. In our example, which is a fear conditioning paradigm, the experiment includes passive viewing and requires no further input from the participant. The researcher will remain in the control room for the duration of the experiment to remotely monitor the progress of the experiment, keeping an eye out for any issues that may arise that may affect the data collected. If necessary, the researcher and participant can communicate through the intercom system. We also monitor the physiological responses and write down any peculiar events, especially incidents of excessive movement on the participant's part. After the experiment has concluded, we stop recording in the Acknowledge software, then enter the experiment room to ask the participant whether he faced any problems or has any questions. We then disconnect the electrodes from the participant and allow him to wash off any residue that might be left behind by the electrodes. At this point, we may give the participant relevant questionnaires along with prepared debriefing forms or any other experiment materials that may be required. If there are no queries, we pay the participant, thank them for their time, and escort them out of the lab. After the participant leaves, we return to the control room, save and archive the data files from the Acknowledge software, as well as check that MATLAB data has been collected and saved on the stimulus computer. We then wash and disinfect all non-disposable sensors, as well as items like the headphones, in preparation for the next participant.